Okay, got it. You said you wanted to speak on gender roles and expectations in relationships.
Oh, yes, yes.
So what?
Oh, the juicy stuff. I love it. Well, yeah, I mean, as someone who was dating a woman for years, and yes, I was the more masculine one, if we're just wondering. It wasn't always like this. No, yes, she'll tell you. My sister.
Is it always like that? Like there's one masculine, one feminine?
You know, I would say 9 times out of 10, I think there is, but also I will say from where I'm at, because, you know, all different parts of the world, there's so many different types of people, and I would say where I'm at, New York, New Jersey, it's usually like that. You have the one feminine, one masculine, but I also, with years of, you know, dating women and not dating men, now that I'm with the man, I'm just like, okay, got it. Like, it's not only, I'm like, it's not really supposed to be like that, but I have seen like feminine, or even mask, that's happened.
Right.
I've dabbled. But it's a thing.
Who pays on the date if you...
Let me tell you, I was going broke, so I would say...
Can I tell you all the questions you guys are going to have for her? I've grown up asking her, so I can understand.
Yes,
So
she's
why
still
do you
studying me.
think that is? Like, if you guys are women and you want to be with a woman, like, why is one trying to look like, or, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but why is one looking like a man or trying to look like a man?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I can't speak for all of us, right? But for me, initially, I felt as if I had to take on that masculine role, right? So that was also a lot of trauma response too. So if we're being real and diving deep into things, a lot of it was I felt like I had to be that man, set that good male example. So even if that means, you know, you're playing the part, you're playing dress up, like for me, that's what it was. And I wasn't able to be like in my feminine energy and, you know, as soft as I wanted to be. Don't get me wrong, still super masculine, but that was the thing. Now I'm a little bit more feminine.
Were you playing that role before you met your, or was that after, or is that a discussion y'all had?
You know, with my current man?
No, with before the woman that you were dating.
Okay.
Like, did y'all discuss who was going to be more masculine? Who was?
Honestly,
I'm going to tell y'all, no, that was a very natural situation, watching it unfold.
If we're being honest, my father definitely raised me to be the little son, little boy. She was the girly girl, I was not. But also, I still, again, to this day, I'm super tomboy. I think I just pushed it a little bit more because I felt like that was what was right. It was comfortable, and you know, at a young age, I was like high school when this was happening. Easily impressionable. Everybody was like the fad. Everyone could do it. You know what I mean?
And I would just like to point out, like, again, this circles back to our topic about like marriages and things circling back to Christ, because like our mom raised us very Catholic in the church. God is everything, and our father was atheist. Probably still is.
Yeah.
So, granted, they were married till her dying day, but that was also very confusing and affected us a lot in our decision making growing up, our personalities, especially partners that we've chosen. You know, I'm not the father of my kids. We were together for 5 years. That didn't work out for various reasons. But the person I'm with now for the last 3 years, I mean, he's wonderful. He's like best dad in the world. Like, you know, their dad is still around, but stepdad for sure.
The whole acting out the traits of the opposite sex is really interesting, because if you look at men, homosexual, who are attracted to the same sex, they start to almost present a caricature of a woman that even women don't even sound like that. It's like it's like a woman that's cast in like a TV show that's over the top, but then you know, with the hand waving and the lisping and all of that, like, what's the equivalent for lesbians?
Well, I got you. First, let's jump into.
Is it like crushing a can?
Sitting with your legs
Just like,
apart.
what do you do? Like,
So first with the fashion, so it's the look, right? You gotta nail the look, right? You gotta sell it.
Like Young M.A.
yeah.
Hello,
so you look
goodbye.
like Rosie the Riveter. You're all like, let's go to the bar.
The snapback was a thing. It was a thing. We didn't sag the pants because that's not
White
cute.
tank top.
What? Listen, tattoo showing. I'm
Doc
like,
Martens,
like,
rolled up.
No,
50s
Jordans.
jeans.
It was
okay,
Jordans. It was Nikes. Yes, kept it cute. She would have. She would have.
Not my sister.
But also, it's just a matter of like everything. Again, it goes back to wanting that male presence in your life to be that good example. So I'm like, okay, what would a good man do? Walk on this side of the street, pay for the dinners. You know, somebody looks at you crazy. I'm just like, what's up? We got issues. You know what I mean? And again, sometimes that didn't put me in the best positions in life, and you know, but that's part of learning, right?
You said something really interesting when you were saying I was pretending to be the masculine type. You said it was a trauma response.
Yes.
So you, in your masculine energy, that was a trauma response?
Yes, because I saw it as, again, when I was growing up, as my sister explained, like our father figure and stuff, I feel like love him, but there were a lot of things that I feel he didn't protect us in ways that he had to, you know what I'm saying? And we didn't get the best version of him that we could have. So in moments where I felt like I needed it the most, when life is hard, high school, you know, you're going through all these like life changes, I was just like, all right, I'll just do what I think I need to do. And also, you know, there's a lot of that codependency in that relationship too, because she kind of had a male figure that wasn't the best at the moment, and we're both trying to figure it out. But yeah, I think that's really what it was. Not to say that it wasn't real, the feelings weren't real. I think it's just I wasn't being real to myself.
It's really interesting, though, because feminism obviously pushes women in a masculine direction. It argues that they should prioritize masculine things. But on the flip side of the coin, feminism also waits for a woman to be hurt by a man. Then it jumps in the picture and promises everything. So a lot of times I'll go to colleges and I'll talk to these girls and I'll say, we've all had bad experiences with men in our lives. Every single guys have had bad experiences with men, but feminism waits at your doorstep and promises you the world to heal you from that trauma. And it just seeps in at the wrong moment. And that's why I find feminism is so predatory on women who may not have had good father figures or have had traumatic relationships, or, you know, women who grew up with a development of an attachment style trauma. If they had an anxious attachment develop because they were abandoned, or avoidant attachment develop because they were also probably abandoned. A lot of times girls with trauma will end up as feminists, and it's, you know, and then be presenting as masculine because it's literally a predatory ideology.
There's also, they used to study it more. They just coincidentally kind of stopped putting in the spotlight, but like early abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse used to be studied with both men and women, homosexuality. And they just kind of like, no, I was born this way. They kind of skip that aspect, and they're like, no, I'm going to just skip to I'm born this way, which doesn't make any sense still to this day, because can you imagine the doctor like raising the child and being like, it's gay? It's like, it doesn't make sense. There's a lot more to these stories, but because it's been sold as like, I agree with you, that sort of reaction, it's sold as empowerment. You're going to be a feminist and a lesbian, and then they just jump right into the role. But it's like that's why I wanted to ask you, not that you could know this, but would you suspect there are other women who went through kind of similar thing as you, and they are essentially doing a kind of role playing? Yes. Not that you would confront them directly, that might not go well, but can you tell? You think you could tell?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. There's people that either like I've worked with in the past, just a friend of a friend, and usually those people are the one that are telling me their life story immediately. And just through that, if I'm a firm believer, all you got to do is listen to somebody for a few seconds to really get an understanding of who they are. And because I've been through it, they're talking, and I'm just like, yeah. So I would definitely say it's a thing, just from what they say, how they act about certain things, even bringing certain things up could be touchy. They get defensive, and I'm just like, yeah, that's all trauma.
Would you say that women who are feminine are also healed or healthy?
Honestly, I would like to lean towards that, because I would say I've been in relationships, whether it was male or female, that I just felt like I always had to be on guard. I had to be the lead, and it was too much. And I'm like, this is not natural. Then going into a relationship where I'm like, oh, like this is actually great. I like being able to just do my job and be a woman, because like that's what I am, and it is healing. So I would definitely like to side with that, and yeah.
And like the trauma can put you, like as a woman, it can put you like one of two ways. You either have that kind of response where you dabble like sexually with like the opposite sex, or you're in the other category where you dabble sexually with the same sex, but now everybody gets it because you think that you're in your feminist power. You can just take control of your sexuality and give it to everybody. Like I subscribed to that when I was younger, and it didn't do anything for me. I had to like literally give my life back to Christ and like remember my roots.
That's one of the one of the most egregious from the feminist ideology is like it takes what's leverage for women, your sex, your virginity, your chastity, your virtue, and it flips it and says, no, that is your power. And a Christian says, yeah, that's partly is your power. But it says, give it away, basically give it away. Like, here you go. Like free. And again, there's a long process here. You go back to the 60s, there's a dedicated movement toward psychedelics, free love, concentrated effort to get that to happen. And lo and behold, just a couple decade or two later, the foundation of the home starts to wither away, and then women are like, I'm not having kids, like I'm not going to be a slave to the kitchen. Meanwhile, if you just kind of, it could be the case that the truest form of feminism is being a homemaker. Right. What if that was a form of feminism? If you watched the debate yesterday, I asked Oliver that. I said, is it possible that being a homemaker is the best feminism, right? Could it be redefined as like the best expression of women? And he couldn't combat it. It just happens to be the case, like you said, that like there's this like feminism produces a bunch of weak men impersonators. They're not even strong men impersonators. They're weak men impersonators. And it's just not, I think it's, God willing, it's starting to fall apart now.
The other silly thing that feminism does is it makes women hold two completely contradictory ideas in their mind at the same time. And specifically relating to how they view sex, it's either super casual and I relate to it the same way that a guy does and it doesn't affect me at all, or on the other extreme, don't look at me the wrong way because you're a sexist, I'm going to take you to court. And so if someone, and feminism is full of these, I'm writing a book right now called 100 Ways Feminism is a Failure.
I can't wait to buy.
It's going to be good, it's going to be fun. We go through a little bit of the history of feminism and uncover, all the dirtiness, because most people don't even know that the suffragette was like equivalent to BLM in the amount of damage that they did to society, like physical arson, bombings, everything. But we also go through every single major contradiction that feminism holds at the same time, starting from I'm a woman, also there's no definition of a woman. Sex is not important at all and totally casual, and also I'm gonna Me Too you at the first opportunity that I can. We go through a bunch of other stuff as well, but that's how feminism controls women. It literally makes them crazy because you cannot have two separate ideas in your mind at the same time, because you're gonna be split between them and someone's just gonna be able to come in and insert whatever they think the truth is on you.
Make sure to add in the book the early contradiction of the suffragettes physically and basically any way possible shutting down what was the majority of women coming out to say we don't want this.
We don't want to vote.
They're
Exactly.
like, no, you can't. You can't do a preliminary vote against your own vote. They like shut it down.
Yes,
which
no,
is
exactly.
a contradiction.
That's a huge part of it. And also, it's funny. You have Rosie on your shirt, and
Make me sad.
you know what's funny about Rosie? She worked for 5 or 6 days in the metal factory, and then decided it was too hard, it was too dangerous, and she left. She became a cellist after that.
And it's funny because you'll always see girls on Instagram, like feminist girls, talking about, oh, I don't want a simp. I don't want a guy that's just going to like submit to everything I say. But then in the same tone, they're like, I
will not submit.
I will not. Like, what do you want then? You don't even know.
Speaking of submission, I've yet to actually hear a compelling reason why men should sacrifice their life, why they should take the bullet.
Have you had
answer the question
on a first date? Have you told a woman that, and how did she react? Have you told I would sacrifice you?
That's his opening line. That's his opening.
Well, no,
I would
because I'm
sacrifice
wondering, because if masculinity is defined by how many kids you have, you got to at least get past the first date, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of interesting though. So basically, your metric for which you would date a man is he must die for me.
No, I'm asking you, is your metric that you date a woman, her being okay with her dying for you?
Oh, she doesn't have to die for me, but I'm definitely not dying for her.
Okay.
At least it's fair.
I don't think men should
But
be
yeah,
willing
she
to
should. It
die
would
for
be better.
any woman. I think it should just be his one woman.
Yes.
Like
Right.
if a woman's walking
No,
down the
yeah.
street, like
No.
he doesn't even know her, like, and she walks into traffic, I'm not going to
Even
expect
your
him to
wife,
run
though.
out into traffic.
Even your wife.
I mean,
Why
if I
should-
fall into traffic or something, like, yeah, I expect my husband to like at least try to get me out of that
of
situation.
Look, just to be clear, I would absolutely protect my wife.
But you
But no,
might get hit by a car.
Up to a point. Up to a point, though, I'm not gonna die.
So like if a burglar like comes into your house, into your bedroom,
he's gonna die.
Like
I'm gonna
but
kill him.
What if he finds your wife first? What if you're in the bedroom and she's in the kitchen? He goes to the kitchen first. Like, are you willing to run into the kitchen and like?
I'm gonna
block
take out my
yourself?
gun.
Okay.
And he's gonna get some lead.
Great.
Okay, if you're
but are you going to
outnumbered?
stand in front of her and use your lead, or are you going to stand behind her?
No, what if you're outnumbered?
Yeah.
Like, which one are you going
Wait,
to do?
what if you're outnumbered? What if there are multiple?
I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get him in my sights, and I'm like, get the fuck out the way, lady. And then he's gonna get shot.
Lady.
When your wife is standing in front of you and has no weapon of her own because she's just like making dinner,
Why
about
is
to
she
get ready to
standing?
bow
I
to
got a
you. She's getting ready to bow, and she
crazy
doesn't have
scenario.
She's getting ready to bow.
she doesn't have her gun on her.
What the fuck? Sorry. Didn't mean to
Not
do
the
that.
bow.
She's preparing her best bow.
Making dinner and preparing her best bow. Is that what you said?
Yes.
I actually think if you're confronted with the moment like that, not the kitchen scenario, but in a scenario where you were going to take, I really think deep down something in your biology would probably step in the way and push her out of the way.
I feel like it's
I know, I really think so.
Luckily, I've transcended.
Your instinct.
I've transcended.
Hold on, but in handgun practice, there's like this rule that you're only going to be 50% if you're actually really good with accuracy with the gun in a moment of stress. And so I think your biology would actually kick in and you'd push her out of the way. And if you took a bullet in the meantime, you'd be like, well, that stinks, but I think it's a biological thing. I think you want to say that you would mentally override your initial reaction, but I don't think men are wired that way.
Yeah.
You also don't fully know when you're in you don't have full knowledge of if you're going to die or get hurt a lot of times. You're just kind of guessing and reacting to that. But he does make a good point because ultimately, from a secular position, there isn't a good answer to this question.
No.
Yeah, there's not.
So there's only a pragmatic utility, and Brian's holding the pragmatic utility position, and you can't really defeat it unless you insert a theological view. I would argue, particularly a Christian view, which he doesn't hold. So in this instance, he's not married anyway because he has no reason to do that either. So I mean, why would you die to defend a woman, the status of which you'll never have as a wife because you don't value that part first. So it's like it's all downstream from like, oh, it's just a human. I can get another human, and
Wait,
it's like that. It's like a Pez dispenser.
Related to this, just curious. Who here is a virgin? Anybody a virgin? Never had sex?
I don't know if they have a different word.
Never
for
had
that.
virgin? Never? No sex?
Yeah. No born agains either.
No sex? You've had sex? No sex. Okay, we got two virgins. If men should be willing to sacrifice their life for their girlfriend or wife, whatever, should women be virgins?
Wait, what?
Wait, just to be clear. So here's your argument. Not a virgin? Not a virgin. You're married. I don't know if you were a virgin.
I wasn't when I got married.
Have kids.
You're married. Were you a virgin? Okay.
Mine was a joke.
So
being
just
a
to be
virgin.
clear, traditional gender roles, men should be willing to die, but women not virgins? So explain to me why, and I think in comparison, even if the woman is a virgin, that's wonderful, that's great, but I don't think that's anywhere comparable to the sacrifice of giving your life. Why is that a fair trade-off? Like, you guys can't even bring virginity. I mean, they can, but
Yeah,
but
there's two women.
you want men to die for you, but you're not virgins. Explain it.
So you only have value if you're a virgin. I
Yeah,
just want to make sure I'm clear on that.
Yeah.
Gotcha, bitch.
Well, another way of asking what he's asking is what's equivalent to that then? Because he's just putting it out there. Like, what if men valued virginity, virtue from their women. They wanted a society that women actually not only valued that, but tried to actually actualize it. The same way they're expecting men to actualize sacrifice to death, war, etc. So if it's not virginity, I think virginity is actually a pretty good one to present. But if it's not that, what else would it? What's something comparable then?
I think it also changes if you have kids. So I mean.
But what's comparable though to that? Because let's say a bunch of women said, yes, we expect men to potentially die, be on this side of the road. Maybe they get hit by the car first. They open the car door for us. They go to war. They keep society thriving. They do all the grunt work. If you asked all the men, and then let's say it was like 95% men said, what do you want in return? And we say, we want you to value your virginity. What would be, if it wasn't virginity, what else would it be? Like, you know what I mean?
Healing Brian from his sickness right now.
Healing? Yeah, I think.
I mean, I understand
in
the
general.
point you're trying to make. And like for someone like me, for instance, who has children, obviously I can't get it back.
Right.
And I love my children. I wouldn't trade them for the world. But I also, now in hindsight, if I could have waited to marriage, I would have. Totally.
But what would your argument be to, like, let's say I put a should claim on women and I say women should be virgins. What would your rebuttal be to that?
Then the women who aren't virgins have no business dating you or trying to.
No, I'm just saying, well, you would make a should claim as to all men should be willing to sacrifice their life for their wife.
Can we agree
would make-
both?
Huh?
Can we agree both? All women before marriage should be virgins, and men should.
But they're not.
Well, the thing is, too, that's like something we can't take back. And it's something that, like, I feel like at a young age, it was like hyped and whatnot. We're just going through a whole bunch of programming. Like, they're wanting us to be confused, to be promiscuous, to engage in partying, and keep us distracted at a low vibration. And it sucks because I think we could agree that we would wait for our husband. But unfortunately, that's something we can't get back.
And I feel like now, like in terms of me and my relationship, like, okay, I can't offer him virginity, but I can offer him
A bow.
loyalty. And, yeah, that was a good one. But also, you know, knowing that no other man is ever going to touch my body. I'm not going to do things to try to entice men to even want to be near me. You know, I mean, I'm never going to be provoking men's attention or anything like that. That's the best that we can do for women who aren't virgins. And, you know, if a man is willing to accept that, great, you know.
Sounds like modesty. The question is, why don't the men in our culture, why haven't we earned the modesty before the marriage? You know what I mean? Because it's like there's this trend where it's like, yeah, you found the man of your dreams. You both, let's be honest, both wish you could erase a lot of your past, but now you want to kind of settle into the modesty position for your husband. But it's interesting that it's kind of at the tail end and it's not at the beginning. It would make more sense that women were modest for their potential husbands.
But that plays into how you're raised and like your life experiences that you have. You know, again, like I was growing up, like I subscribed to the whole feminist, independent woman, all yada yada, all that jazz. But growing up, having a children is a big thing too, like to shift your mindset, because it really puts perspective, you know, priorities into place, and it puts into perspective choices that you made, things you would have done differently. So like hindsight is 2020. Like I totally would have changed a lot of the things I did as a teenager, knowing if I would have known what I knew now.
Well, I think we could all agree that descriptively, at least in the U.S. and some other countries, that the movement away from traditional values, particularly Christian ones, and the pursuit of feminism and liberation, and the women get targeted, like clearly. Like men already have a sense of individualism just because of our nature. We're not out to find. That's why there's no men. There are some men's groups, but we laugh at them. They're not like fighting for their liberation. It's never reversed. So you're always hearing from the women, we want this, and you're basically asking the men for it. But I mean, in the last 100 years, I mean, this has really messed up women's mindsets, because they're attributing value to something that doesn't give them a return that they ultimately want, but they don't know they want it until they're older, and then they're suddenly like, oh shit, you know what I want? Well, it turns out the thing you wanted all along, you could have had, and you didn't need to sacrifice all of that. You didn't need promiscuity. You didn't need practice with sex. You didn't need any of these things. But the women are taught this. and taught you can just be just like a man. Burp. Have you seen like female comedians? They literally act like just gross male comedians. Like the ones they're impersonating aren't even funny male comedians. But that's like a microcosm of what I'm looking at. Is there's this like effort to have women go out there and be like sloppy because men can be. It's like, is that really a good fight to show up in public and like, you know, you look like you're in your total pajamas and you're like, liberation. You're like,
I was gonna say
what
pajamas.
are we doing?
Yes,
That's a big
Susie
thing.
Orbach wrote a book called Fat is Feminist, and the whole premise of her book is that male beauty standards are too restrictive and women should rebel against them by being fat.
Yeah,
and this
I saw
was in the
Saw that.
60s or 70s when it was published. And so when feminists tell you like, oh, it's an act of rebellion, like they really mean everything. They also say one of the other contradictions of feminism is men's beauty standards are too high and impossible, and men will screw everything that moves. And I'm like, which one is it? Is
And
it
it's
that they're
funny.
too selective or that they'll do anything?
It's
also
they'll
very-
have sex with anything.
It's also
Male
very
don't
funny
have high
that they
beauty
put it on men because, like, if we didn't have like social media, magazines, like things in front of our faces showing us what we would like, again, men don't care. Like they really wouldn't have these kinds of preferences. It's really media, the world, society that pushes those kinds of things on us, and we want to blame men because, you know, like it's just the easiest thing. They're right in front of us. But that's not realistic. It's not fair.
Men don't
it's not
have
right.
an obligation to protect us from our own emotions.
Right.
I used to think that, and then I learned that really quickly. I would literally told my boyfriend one time, I was like, I feel like you should just protect me from my emotions. And as soon as it came out, I was like, no, that is not your job. That's not a healthy
The best we
boundary
can do
either.
is essentially equivalent to go to your room, like go over there for like 20 minutes until the thing is over, basically. But that's the best we can do with
Well,
that.
it has to start with destroying the nuclear family, and the first thing is messing up the women's mindset, telling them to compete with men, getting them out of the house, and then confusing them with this feminist movement. And now they've moved to attacking kids and saying that you are actually in the wrong body.
You're in the wrong body.
Yeah,
I love
and
this panel
that's
today. I swear, I
Well,
really
so
do.
anyways.
Because
So anyways, here we have some chats coming through. Luke